wrote of the Highgrove Suite. The first was Goddess of the Woods. When I knew I was going to be writing another 3 movements to complete the suite, I made various visits down to the garden at Highgrove. The first of these visits was in the winter, and the garden was covered with ice and snow. And I was walking around the garden with the head gardener, Deb's Goodenough, who's such a lovely person, and she was talking to me about the practicalities of the garden and the technicalities of the garden. And we were walking down the time walk. A few minutes earlier I'd been looking at the Gladiator close up, and as we approached the house itself, the other end of the time walk, I said to Deb, "Look, do you mind just leaving me alone for a couple of minutes?" She says, "No, not at all," because I could feel something fermenting within me. I love that feeling, and I just knew if I gave myself some silence, something was about to give birth. So she left me, and within seconds of her leaving me, I heard boom, 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 boom. I was looking back down the time walk to the Gladiator. It was as much a rhythm as a clearly defined melodic pattern. And it was also a texture, a deep texture, almost like timpani. Though I was writing it for string orchestra, so it couldn't be timpani. It had to be the cellos and basses, but that was the initial seed at that moment. And when I came back to Norfolk, I immediately worked on it that evening. And out of the dum, 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 the kind of main melody seemed to me to immediately grow out of that. I think of the 4 movements of the Highgrove Suite, the Gladiator is the most majestic. And we're talking about here the home, the property of, the garden of, the beloved garden of the future King of England. And majesty, for those reasons, majesty is the emotion. It's more than an emotion, isn't it? But it's the emotion I'm most interested in. In fact, majesty is something I am more interested in as an English composer than anything else. Within this movement are quieter, what we'd call more episodic sections. And it's within these sections I'm trying to get beyond the surface of the Gladiator, get beyond the strength and the muscles and the masculinity and the sword and the weapon, to what's in here. After the performance at the reception, the chairman of the Prince's Foundation for Children and the Arts came to me and said how much he'd enjoyed the suite, and asked me a question. He said, with the Gladiator, were you trying to paint a picture, a caricature of the Prince of Wales? I said, no, not consciously. He said, well, it's just that as I listened to that piece, it just seemed to sum up the Prince of Wales. It seemed to sum up his strength, his humour, his those intense moments of sensitivity which he can show. And I was thrilled that he thought that, because of course he knows the Prince of Wales very well. But it's an interesting thought, isn't it? That the Gladiator is in effect a portrait of the owner of the Highgrove Gardens.